Welcome to Create Your Own Reality, a show about hope, inspiration, and encouragement. A program that will feature guests and topics that may inspire you to think about what is real and how you can create miracles in your life. Your host, Badeish Lange. Thank you for joining us on Create Your Own Reality. I'm your host, Badeish Lange, and my special guest is Don Wright, a communications coach and presentation expert. Today we will be discussing the 3 keys to excellent communication.
Excellent.
Welcome to the show, Don.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good.
Thank you.
But I was told, watch out for the word expert, because you know what it means? Old drip. Expert. So I would like people to know that I'm not an old drip.
Well, you know, I've experienced your work, and I do believe that you are an expert in your field. And
yes.
I wanted to know why oral communication is so difficult to accomplish successfully.
That's because, as you say in your show, all our realities are different. There is no such thing as an audience. Everybody who's watching this show, everybody who's listening to it, is listening on the inside. So you're never talking to a whole group of people. But the difficulty in that is to find out the reality of the other person. What's their world like? And
right.
That's why there's difficulty, is because many times in our world we think we're getting the message across. Don't you understand this? But they're not, because they're living in a different world. And that's why it's so difficult for communications. Okay.
What are the 3 keys to successful communication?
Number 1 is the big thing is to come. The biggest one is to come from your heart, mind, body. And when I use the word spirit, I'm not using it in a religious sense. I'm using it in the sense of the energy. Yes. The energy, it comes back. See, Badeish, the word personality comes from the different persona or masks we carry with us. Mm-hmm. So we're always having different personas. Right now, I'm playing expert, and you're playing
host.
And at times, I'll be playing differently. People forget that. I'm also a member of the senior theater group, so we're always constantly changing our personalities, our personas.
Right.
The big trick is to know that you're not any of those, that they're all on stage, and you have a choice as a person to say, I'll play this one, and I'll play that one, and I'll play this one.
Well, how much of the communication is nonverbal?
Yes.
Ah.
In other words, I will demonstrate this now to the audience. If I was just using communication this way, I would be talking this way. Hello, Badeish, thank you. I really enjoy being here. Da-da-da-da-da, and it's like a computer. That is, people forget this. 7% of communications are the words. 7%. 93% is, again, how we look, how we sound, and how we feel. And that's the essence of communications. But what do? When we give a speech or something else, we forget that. The words are important, but how you sound and how you feel about the words. That adds a thing called emotion to emote, to get your across. And that's difficult, especially for younger people now, because they're so used to computers.
Well, you know, I have been at presentations where the sound of someone's voice was like nails on a blackboard. Yes. They were so unaware of the style in which they were using their voice.
Yes.
Many times bad body language, very, very passive, giving off the message that they really didn't care if you got it or not.
No.
And we all feel when someone's up there and is coming from the heart center, I
call
believe.
it the heart, yes. If your eyes are the window to your soul, your voice is the sound coming through the window. Okay. And I'll repeat that one more time to the audience. If your eyes are your window to your soul, your voice is the sound coming through the window. It's 38%. On the telephone, Badeish, 87% is not what you say. It's how you say it. 87%. Badeish, have you ever talked to somebody on the telephone and didn't see them in person, and then all of a sudden one day you saw them in person and you go, you don't look the way you sound. That's called a voice image. And it's very important for people to know, especially on the telephone. What's happening now is I have a daughter who's 26 years old. She doesn't like to talk on the phone. She texts us.
Yes.
And I don't understand it, but I understand to a certain degree why. It quickly gets the message across. No other words, it's just get the message across, get the information across.
But there's such a loss of intimacy.
Yes. In fact, I'm finding out a lot of people are afraid of that. I call it FaceTime. See, in the business world, we can send emails, we can send fax, we can Twitter, wither, whatever you call, but eventually you're going to have what's happening right now, Badeish, and that is FaceTime.
Right.
And what happens in FaceTime and what frightens people is this, that you get emotion instantly. And
Right.
people don't like that. You don't get that on an email. An email could say, meeting tomorrow at 4. Or does it mean, a meeting tomorrow at 4? Different emotions.
There's such a loss of so many gifts that come through that type of intimacy,
Yeah.
because you're getting an impression
Yes.
of that person on so many levels, and that's my work.
Yeah.
I'm reading the voice, I'm reading the field, I'm reading body language, I'm reading all of that. And if I was just doing nothing more than reading photographs, which I do,
Yeah.
it would be, I think, a loss, a huge loss, because I enjoy to hear that voice and to make that intimate contact and using that voice in an intimate,
And
you know,
speaking of the
emotional
voice,
way.
see, a lot of people believe that the voice starts here. It doesn't. It starts here. This is called the voice box.
You're right.
So when you really communicate, you don't want to communicate from just here. You want to communicate from here.
Well, how long does it take to make your first impression?
Good question.
Another good one.
Good question. 5/16 of a second. 5/16 of when a person walks into the room and puts out their hand, you already have a first impression. The difficulty with first impressions is this, Badeish. It's based on other people who look like that in the past. It's not them. So you got to watch it, but it happens very, very quickly, because the brain, which is a wonderful servant and a lousy master, quickly goes, up, that's another type of person that I have met in the past. I love them or don't love them. That's how quickly it happens.
It's almost like a download from your
Yes, from the
computer
past.
that's been programmed, profiled, and so all of a sudden you get profiled very,
You
very,
go
very quickly.
See, that's why I tell clients, your brain is a wonderful servant and a lousy master. It's filled with past information. It's beautiful. If we can have a computer, Badeish, as good as our brain, fascinating. And so I say to people, don't communicate from your brain, communicate from your heart.
Right.
And we use that word heart so much. The heart, we're finding out, it pumps more than blood. It's also a source of intuition. In fact, when you do your work, it comes many times from the heart. The difficulty, Badeish, is the biocomputer, the brain, spews out information at 900 words a minute, very, very quickly.
Very quickly.
But if you got to watch that, you have to go down and go up, slow down, come from your heart. Because as I will show to the audience, when you come from your heart, you add emotion, you add feelings. I can say, thank you for being here, or I can say, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And now all of a sudden I'm using what I call mind, body, and spirit energy in our communications.
Again, I think that we're losing this in our society.
And yet I believe that there's going to be a rediscovery of this. There has to be a rediscovery. I work with some major corporations that everybody, even in the next cubicle, they don't talk to the person. They get on a computer and go back and forth. But still, we are human beings. We are on a planet. All of us are on the planet. We sometimes forget this. On this planet, the word universe means one song. There's a combination of everything in this planet.
Yes.
And we forget that. We think that they're separate. There's no separate things. We're finding out through quantum physics that there's an energy constantly going back and forth. And I love it. I love what's happening right now. It's scary.
I remember an Academy Award years ago when Sally Field said, "You like me, you really like me," and that will be forever tagged.
Yes.
In her file for life, because she was so enthusiastic and emotional that I thought it was precious, because she revealed a lot.
I have the pleasure of working with a lot of corporations, a lot of powerful people, and the ones that come from their heart. I love this phrase, the highest form of love is to be in service.
Yes.
And if you remember that, because we love people like that, who at one time in society was service is our middle name, and we would throw that out. The economy has changed, and I believe as we change this now, people who really care, who have emotion, who really get their message out there, not only from here, from there, they're going to win.
Well, Don, how important is listening skills? I would imagine that's crucial.
Well, many times we're trying to listen to the person, but our brain is spewing in a lot of information. And you have to listen to another person. You can listen, by the way, and watch their body styles. There's people, like a good example, if you're talking to an auditory person, they'll say things like, do you hear what I mean? That means they're auditory, so you can talk to them that way.
Right.
If they're visual, they'll say things like, you got the picture? And that means this is a visual person, so talk to them in a show them pictures. And then you have kinesthetic people who say, are you understanding what I'm feeling?
Yes.
And so you watch all these types, and we've changed. I'm very auditory. My wife is more visual. My wife, when she spells, sees pictures. I try to spell by going with sounds, duh, and I'm not a good speller because I'm always trying to sound it out. She sees the picture. Yeah. She knows everybody's social security number. She loves that. She sees pictures, and I'm always going, how do you remember all that stuff, you know?
That's her talent.
Yeah, I know, that's her talent. We're all talented. All of us are divine essence, having a human experience, and it's my job as a coach for people to rediscover what they're born with. Badeish, why is it that babies have no difficulty in communicating? Because they're coming from their essence. You look at a baby and you see that, you go, wow, and we forget that. We start putting things on back and forth. We start playing roles like human being, male, female, and it gets in our way.
Well, we started there, but somewhere along the way we got conditioned to pull back and not bring forth that true essence of ourselves. And I think anybody that I've noticed in the public that's done presentations that I loved were animated, came from their heart. If they screwed up a little bit, they laughed at themselves. Yes. And you know, I was one of those people years ago, not so much now, but I was afraid to be in front of the public or be in front of a camera, all of that. And
because you wanted to be perfect.
Right? I think it had to do with that. But I realized that the only gift I could give, myself first and then the audience, was myself. Yes. And so one of the gimmicks that I've used for years is I'll dress very nice and look very, you know,
we both have our
professional and
you know,
in my costume. And then I will kick my shoes off in two opposite directions and say to them, I think I've got your attention.
Sure. And you use the word, our real self. That real self comes from communicating with the 93%, and with the 7% are the words.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And being able to laugh at yourself
when
you're not perfect.
The highest form of humor is to be able to laugh at yourself. Watch people. I mean, you know, see the number one, what do you think the number one fear of people is in communications? The number one fear, according to the Book of Lists.
What is it?
Public speaking. Dying is number 7. And you know why?
Well,
you know
I
why,
can understand that.
Badeish, because it's in our DNA.
Yes.
Our ancestors, the ones that stood up in front of the tribe, that was dangerous. I mean, they could get, you know, speared down or something. So it's always in the back of our mind. It's so fascinating to be able to talk with a person. All of a sudden, you're in a meeting, Badeish, and all of a sudden, all your co-workers become the audience.
Yes.
And you think, oh, they're looking at me. They're now an audience. And you're thinking about, oh gosh, I hope that I don't make a mistake. You know what they're really thinking, Badeish? Thank goodness I don't have to give a presentation.
Exactly.
That's what they're thinking when they do that. And all of us.
I think that there are some people, though, that have such a deep fear of being seen.
Yes.
And I remember when I was in high school years ago, very shy young girl, and I was in a class where I had to give my very first speech.
Yeah.
I broke out in a rash from here all the way down, and my teacher gave me a B for effort, but she asked me to sit down because she thought I was and I learned from that experience, but the thing is that I realized that anything in life, you got to step out of your comfort zone.
Right, good.